Hello and welcome to Rally Sport Magazine's Special Stage podcast. You'll notice we're back with you just a week after our last episode. Thanks to Max Cases and the team there up in northern New South Wales, we've been able to move to a weekly podcast. So it's nice to be with you again, just 7 days after we chatted to Rhiannon Gelsomino. Blair Bartels, the New Zealand Rally Championship co-ordinator, is our guest on the podcast this week. He talks about everything in New Zealand rallying, from Rally New Zealand's return last year to the Daybreaker Rally, which just completed at the weekend, and also calendars, trans-Tasman Cups. We go through everything. So I look forward to having your company for the next 30 minutes or so. As we talk New Zealand, we're jumping over the Tasman this week, and no doubt you'll get something out of it. Welcome along, Blair Bartels, to our special stage podcast, the coordinator of the New Zealand Rally Championship, I believe. Is that still your role, Blair?
Yeah, that's the one. If we have to put an official title on it, but thanks for having us on. It's exciting to be here.
It's going to be great to chat about the New Zealand Championship and New Zealand rallying in general, which I think is really prospering at the minute. The rally that we've just had, the Daybreaker Rally at the weekend, looked like it was a huge success from what I saw. What are you doing on an event weekend? You've only just come from the Daybreaker Rally, like we just mentioned. Long days, long nights. Is that what your rally weekends are like?
Yep, yeah, it's fair to say some of those are probably a little bit more self-inflicted than they should be. But for us, we're working with the organisers largely around the promotional events, a little bit with the sporting side, but more just to make sure that everything's running smooth. We're also working with our TV contractors, providing live streams, running around starts and finishes. And there's generally all sorts of weird stuff that tries to crop up. And then in the middle of all of that, we try and keep on top of what's actually happening in the rally and just check in on how as many people as we can are going. And it really varies rally to rally, but it's an exciting role and it's a great way to be involved.
The Daybreaker Rally is a classic rally that's got huge history. They celebrated their 40th anniversary or their 40th event at the weekend. It's come back to the championship after a long layoff. I said that it was done amazingly well from what I saw. From a championship point of view, is that echoed from what you hear in terms of how well the event was received?
100%. Like I don't think you ever go to a rally and say it's perfect, but all the feedback that we're getting are the tiniest little niggly things, which is fantastic. I mean the R2G group, T-Mac and Paul Fallon, they took this challenge on, which we're really, really grateful for. We started off the season. We thought, oh, great, COVID's out the way. We can just have a nice, normal season. This will be nice and simple after a couple of years of crap and having to cancel the championship in 2020. And then we had all sorts of weather bombs go through the North Island up here, and we couldn't get to the Coromandel, and there was all sorts of horrific devastation through the Hawke's Bay. So we had to pull the pin on both of those rounds, which was really unfortunate. And I'm sure anyone who has to try and organise a calendar will tell you that they're a tricky thing to do, and they're even more tricky to do when you're trying to run a series at the same time. So, in that respect, it hasn't been the most fun. But as I say, those guys and their team, they did some due diligence and stuck their hand up, took a bit of a risk, and they worked really, really, really hard and done some really, really, really good stuff. And I think that was reflected in the entry. To see 90 plus cars at a North Island Rally is magic. Those are the sort of numbers we normally only see at Otago. And then the quality of the event over the weekend was mega. Turnout at the ceremonial start was huge. They ended up having to alter on the fly because there was no way that they were getting through the autograph session in 20 minutes like they had planned. That queue was still back a mile long. It took them about an hour and a bit to get through them all. So I'm sure all those drivers were sort of getting sore arms by the end of that, and it continued on through the day, even to the point where, despite the fact that we got to the afternoon and it was absolutely hosing down, they packed more people into Manfield, which is a racetrack there. For by all accounts, more people than they normally get at a circuit race meeting, despite the fact that it was the weather was horrific. I've been to lots of dusty rallies and I've been to lots of wet rallies, but I've never been to the both on the same day. And it was literally a day of two halves in that respect. We had bordering on dust issues and looking at longer gaps in the morning and rivers running down the road in the afternoon. So it was quite crazy in that respect. But to answer your question, those guys they did a magnificent job, and as a championship, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of competitors and as well as us as a championship promoting team. A huge hats off and thanks goes to that group for bringing back an iconic event and doing it in a manner that was fitting of that event.
No doubt. And I've had a look back at our archives at some of the old Daybreaker photos from years gone by. I'm sure you would have memories as well from back when it was part of the championship, do
you? Yeah, definitely. So I remember the last time it made a comeback. Certainly when I was a young fella watching it, it was always one of those iconic events. And then when I first got involved with the championship organisation side of things, which was 2011, and then I think it was 2013, the Daybreaker came back for the first time, which was run by the Wairarapa team. And they already had one successful event with Rally Wairarapa under their belt, and they did a great job of bringing that back. And it was that exciting to get back to that then, and it's just even more so now. As I said, full credit to the guys that brought it back, because they really embraced the history and that sort of retro feel of the event, and did a great job. So for me, as I guess a bit of a rallying nerd, massively exciting to get back there.
We'll cover the results off very briefly. Hayden Padden and John Kennard obviously continued their dominance in the championship when they are there, followed by Shane Van Gisbergen and Rana Hora in third. It was a pretty straightforward rally, apart from the conditions like we mentioned. Hayden was out front a lot of the time. Shane had a good rally for once in that Audi, which unfortunately has been a bit troublesome this year.
Oh, I think that car. There's a few people said that, and I think it's a little bit of a rough cop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's it had a PDM failure at Whakaparei, but that's a freak thing. That's not something that it's not a part of your life or anything like that. It's just most of the time people go, "Oh, I was unlucky it broke down." That genuinely was unlucky, to break down. So and then we haven't seen him since. So it sort of seems like he's not finished all the time. The reality is he's not finished one event, and he's now finished one event. So it's there's a few people that sort of raised an eyebrow at Shane being seated second on the road, but I think he truly showed that he deserves that, or continued to show that he deserves that spot. He really cemented his position at Rally New Zealand last year in terms of where he sits in the pecking order. And the fact that he does it he's still really a novice to rallying, but his work ethic and his dedication to going fast is second to none, and that's why he's risen up the ranks so fast. That and the fact that he's just a freak. He's freakishly talented. You can't really sort of skip around that.
Yeah, what does he do for the New Zealand Championship from the series? Do you see an uptake in maybe entrance? I would sure you'd see an uptake in social numbers and all that kind of stuff from what you're seeing.
Yeah, for sure. Not so much entries, but numbers on the ground, and your social stories. Yep, a little bit of profile within the mainstream media. The likes of a Hayden or a Shane, especially. Really the news networks and the more mainstream media outlets really love those guys because they're a household name. As much as you or I know who Ben Hunt or Rana Horan or Ari Pettigrew or any of those guys are, they sort of been working on them, but they go, so whereas you talk Shane Van Gisbergen and everyone knows Shane Van Gisbergen. So
it's different, isn't it, when you talk about obviously Shane's huge experience in circuit racing and Hayden's been overseas. It's completely different when you're trying to promote it to a national media outlet, whether it's New Zealand or even Australia for that matter.
Yeah. And look, to be fair, we also try to be a little bit respectful with Shane. This is a hobby for him. And I don't think it's really a secret that he doesn't like doing a huge amount of the media and PR sort of duty. So we try to be a little bit respectful of that too.
Hayden's wins are continuing to come, clearly. The gaps are getting a little bit smaller as time goes on. I had a quick look and he's won each New Zealand Championship round he's been at, I believe, since maybe mid 2017 or something, 6 years on the trot. Is that correct in your mind as well as mine?
Yeah. I think the last one that he would have not won would have been Rally Coromandel, and that would have been, yes, 17, I think.
Yeah, I think we put it off, I think,
Yeah,
at
you
that
just
at that
noticed
event.
Brendo were having a big battle, and
Mm.
that was a bit of a shame because they looked like they were going to have a great battle, and then I think Brendo had a spin, and then it's like, oh, okay, advantage Hayden, and then Hayden. So, he's shown again this year in Europe. He is world class.
Mm.
And the majority of our guys over here are very, very competitive, good at what they do, but they run businesses and it's a hobby that they take seriously. I'm
Mm.
certainly not trying to downplay that, but they're also not in a car. They're not doing 18, 20 events a year. They're not testing in between events, all that sort of stuff. And Hayden's time behind the wheel has scaled back because of he's running a business here too, but he is still doing, he's doing a lot of events and he benefits from that. And he's also benefiting off the back of the time when he was doing, when he was in a car. I was speaking to him about it the other week. He said if it wasn't every week, it was every second week he was in a car. The old saying, you can't beat seat time, well, it rings true because you can't. It's just the reality of the sport.
Mm. From a general New Zealand rallying competitor, is him winning all that much a good thing, a bad thing? What's the sort of consensus around New Zealand?
All of the above. No, I think in general we all recognise the speed continues to lift when Hayden is there.
Yeah.
You start. I mean, Otago is a classic example where they'll reuse stages every second or third year,
Mm.
and we'll go back there, and there'll be he'll set a time, and you go, man, that's fast. Like no one's ever gonna beat that. And you go back 2 years later, and 7 guys beat that record. But
Sure.
Hayden's now got another second of K faster as well, So
Mm.
everyone keeps chasing, but that level has just stepped up so much. And it was really interesting having Harry over here at Rally in New Zealand last year, obviously in an unfamiliar car.
Mm.
But you guys have got some quick guys over that side of the ditch too, and we need to try and find a way to put everyone on a level playing field and see where it all comes out in the wash.
Totally. It may be a Tasman Cup. It was a thing a long time ago, but maybe it's something we need to bring back. It's hard though. You try and go to a neutral event and somebody fast has already done the event or someone's, done
Oh,
it lots of times. It's so hard.
should have done it at Daybreaker. No one had done it for 10 years.
That's right. It could have been a perfect event.
Hindsight, wonderful thing.
Yeah, very
But
much so.
there's lots of differences in what we do too, the Daybreaker, and a lot of the events we do a single parts recce, which I know, having had the odd Australian over here, they do struggle a little bit with. If you talk to Hayden, it was something that really gave him an advantage moving forward because he had to learn to write notes on a one pass recce, and when he got to Europe, it was like, all this extra time.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different factors, but the cars, we're all sort of pretty well aligned now in terms of where the cars sit and a few things like that. So I think, obviously there's a lot of different bits and pieces that would need to come together to make that work. And my favourite word again, calendars. But all need to align. But it'd be neat to do and neat to see.
If Hayden continues on his dominance, there's going to be somebody who challenges him, isn't there? At some point, somebody's going to jump out of the pack and say, I'm going to challenge Hayden. Is there someone competing now that you think might be able to jump up and get up near that point? Perhaps somebody who's still climbing the ladder?
It's a very interesting question. I mean, it's a hard one, right?
Mm.
With trying to promote the sport, the last thing you want to say is, hey, you want to try and talk it up and make it sound competitive. The reality is he is in another league.
Of course.
But yeah, no, he's not unbeatable.
Of course not.
Hey, when he gets older, he might get a bit slower. It hasn't happened yet, but he might come back to the field a bit. But then, Rana Horan, who's right up there as quick as anyone. He's he's a bit older than I guess your traditional rally driver. I'll try and keep that as polite as I can because I like Rana. He's a good man. He's certainly not old by any stretch, but he's not showing any signs of slowing down. If anything, he's getting quicker as he goes. So, I don't know. There's certainly some talented drivers there, and I think if you look at the current crop that's there, it could have been. They come off the back of Richard Mason too, who was massively successful. And you look at that group that could have been great in so many different eras. But then it's so. I mean, that's opening up another can of worms too, isn't it? Because how do you compare? Until 2000, we were blind rallies over here, and certainly, guys like Neil Allport, who won those championships in blind days, have come back and won events in the early 2000s on notes as well, and Joe McAndrews and stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, good drivers are good drivers, right? They're always going to be quick.
Correct. Yeah, totally. Before we move off the Daybreaker, a couple of things. The 42-kilometer stage, I think it was called Sand and Block, something like that. It's great to have long stages like that in national championships. So you guys, as a championship, in agreement, and are you pushing events to try and have a couple of long ones?
Oh, definitely. We like to see is variety, right?
Totally. Yeah.
And we really encourage events, and we're probably a little bit different to most championships around the world because it doesn't necessarily make our job easy in terms of trying to cover things, but we really try to encourage events to have their own unique flavour. So we have a couple of 2-day rounds, 4 one-day rounds. We have some that are sort of repeat stages, some that are no repeat stages, some that are Daybreaker, which are tight and twisty. We go to Timaru, which flat out. We've really got that variety. We think that that's one of the real strengths of the championship is really allowing those events to embrace their own identity and not become the WRC. Okay, yes, you look at some pictures and you go, well, that's clearly Kenya and that's clearly New Zealand because we don't have elephants over here and we have roads. So, there's a slight difference there. But, we're 3 stages, cloverleaf, and we've got an event that runs like that, and that's fine. And that's, the unique flavour of Whangarei on those pretty special roads up north. But by the same token, we don't feel that running 6 events in that sort of, cookie cutter fashion is the right way to have an exciting championship.
And I think when you look at events building their profile and building their longevity, it's year on year. And like the Daybreaker we've touched on a lot so far in the podcast, year on year, they're going to be able to improve their event and make it really well known that this is what our event is, if in fact they are looking to come back next year.
Yeah, certainly hope that, we can see them back on the calendar again in 2024. They were a very, very popular addition, albeit last minute. But, every event, as I said, there's always room for improvement, but there's is pretty minor. So, I think, as I said, they did a great job. They'll continue to improve because I know those guys well enough to know that they will go through with a fine-tooth comb how they ran that event. And I really hope when they do that, they give themselves a big pat on the back because they did they did everything really, really, really well, despite things like the weather. And because you can never plan for the weather. You can try, but it's it's a pain in the ass is what it is.
It sure is. Can you give a bit of an indication of when the 2024 calendar might come out, both for myself as a interested onlooker and for New Zealand guys as well?
Yeah, it's actively being worked on at the moment.
Cool.
I'd like to. I really had tried to circle a date around before the final round. The reality is that our whole team operates purely on a voluntary basis with real jobs.
Yep.
And so sometimes these things just take a little bit longer than we'd hope. But I don't think we're too. I don't think we're too far away. But I can't. I wouldn't go marking the calendar just yet. Waiting for an announcement date. So Like, look, certainly a month. I'd like to think that we've got it covered.
Fantastic. And clearly the Otago Rally will start the season as it does every year. Whangarei was announced as APRC final earlier this year. Is that still going to plan and that will happen in November?
Yeah, that's the plan. So we're just trying to work, and that's a little bit of it too, is work with the APRC and lock down exactly when that can happen. Yeah, we're looking at a few sort of surprise. Well, not necessarily surprises. Probably the biggest thing that we're looking at is trying to streamline the calendar
Yeah.
in terms of North Island, South Island travel. And there's lots of different sort of reasons why that's important. A big one is cost for competitors and also time. A lot of our competitors, as I say, run businesses. They're time poor people, and so when you're going up and down and up and down and up and down, it's probably as much of the concern as the physical financial. And of course, in this day and age, we've got to look at our carbon footprint too. And when we're doing big miles, we're increasing it. So we're all going to plan. We'll start in the South Island. We'll do all of our South Island events, and then we'll come north. And I think I said to a few people, moving Whangarei to the end of the year, because that's traditionally been the second event. We've sort of broken the teapot. Now we can start putting that back together, how we want to put it back together. So it might be that the spout's sticking straight up rather than out the side and the handle's on the bottom. So I don't know, but we'll have a bit of a different look for 2024.
Makes sense, and look forward to seeing how that all comes out in the wash. Those roads in Whangarei, they're well known and they're beautiful for rallying in May. What would a change to November mean for those roads, do you think?
Hopefully we won't be running around on the Tuesday before the event wondering if we've got an event because another rainstorm's come through. So,
maybe November might be a little bit better for that.
Yeah. Oh, look, it'll be drier. Yes. Certainly, I think tyre wear will be a talking and something that crews need to manage well, and potentially something that the organising team, depending on the flexibility that's afforded by the FIA or otherwise, because again, it's in that sort of FIA mould with with central service parks and that sort of thing, and whether or not there's some flexibility in there, or whether we look at tyre zones, I don't know.
Sure.
I think it's certainly something that I know that team is really looking into at the moment, and just trying to give that event a bit of a fresh feel as well, because it's sort of been reasonably similar in its format and its roads used for a little while. So I think I don't think they're in a position to start saying too much at this point, but certainly a little bit of a watch this space. Really trying to get it exciting and get that APRC final back to being, obviously the last few years have been really, really difficult with COVID and people trying to actually move around the region, and now the cost of that's coming back a little bit, and the ease of that. We'd really, really like to see not only a great final for the Brian Green Property Group New Zealand Rally Championship, but that APRC as well, because at the end of the day, when rallying strong and in the region, it's a good thing for everyone, right?
Sure is. It sure is. Australia and New Zealand, like we say, are different rallying, I guess, landscapes, you could say. Australia is a bigger market, clearly, than what New Zealand is. In terms of the championship itself, how does the championship get its money? Is it from sponsors? Is it from Motorsport New Zealand? And how does it put promotion at the forefront of the championship and make it get better and better each year?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Look, we've got multiple different funding streams.
Sure.
We've been really, really lucky since 2011 when Rally New Zealand took over the championship to have the support of Brian Green. But a little bit comes from various different places, and we can't go. Obviously, there's agreements that say that we can't go too in depth as to how we do that. But like there's a registration fee that the competitors pay, which is relatively minimal in the grand scheme of things, but they pay a little bit towards it. And that really means that we can, the biggest thing it allows us is our TV and video production that we're doing, because I wouldn't say we're moving away from television, but certainly the old days of television being the glory, the be all and end all are certainly changing. We were one of the really, really early adopters of live streaming. And then we just used to do that with an iPad and then a cell phone, and obviously the rest of the world caught up a bit there, and so this year we've unveiled we've worked with the team at Volt and introduced some pretty cool live streams, and we're working on trying to evolve. This has been a bit of a test year with that, with multi-camera platform and drones and things like that, and working on trying to evolve that for 2024, and hopefully try and bring some more footage. As well as and we do a lot of work behind the scenes to try and produce written content. We've got Dale Budge, who does a great job for us too.
Yeah.
And try and keep a good variety of that. We've got like our podcast, our Thursday Night Recce. We really like to try and use that as an avenue to give everyone their 15 minutes of fame, so to speak, sure. and tell some of the stories from within the NZRC, because there's so many great stories that you might know if you're on the inner, but not necessarily ones that get out. So we're trying to get them out. Never going to get them all out there, but we certainly try our best. And
stories are a whole part of rallying, aren't they? If there's no stories at the end of a rally weekend, there's been nothing go on, has there? There's always something.
Yeah, it's sort of making that judgment call too, right? As to which stories should get out and which ones shouldn't.
Totally. Yeah. I can't leave the podcast without asking about Rally New Zealand. Of course, a great event it was last year. You had quite a bit to do with it as well. How was that for you as a New Zealander and as also a TV person, a radio commentator, and all that kind of thing in between?
Geez, that's a bit scary when you start putting lines like that on it. I just use myself for the TV coverage and stuff because I don't have to pay me, which budget, Hey, having the WRC here was hugely exciting. And obviously we'd had a couple of I guess false dawns. We got very, very close in 2018.
Yes.
But then you sneaky Aussies got it there at the last minute. and then we managed to get it on the calendar for 2020. And to be fair, 2020 was the great season of things that could have been. We had not only the WRC coming back, and so it was cheap to ship a car around the world then too. So we had massive interest. We had a lot of Australians interested, a lot of guys from all over the world that were really, really keen to come down, and that didn't happen. So
and Hayden, of course, was going to be in a World Rally Car too.
Hayden was going to be in a World Rally Car. We had what did we have? We had Chris Meek lined up for Whangarei. Here's a little scoop for you. We were very, very close to getting a deal across the line to see Craig Breen at Otago that year.
Yeah.
Something different. I think we had Molly Taylor coming across as well.
Okay.
So, we were in the championship was really moving into a phase, and I'm really sidetracking you here.
No, that's fine.
Of international growth. We were expecting to see Ken Block at Rally New Zealand that year. And then, of course, the whole world stopped. And that was my first year of being sort of in charge of the New Zealand Rally Championship. And I was the first person to ever cancel the New Zealand Rally Championship. So
what a baptism of fire.
But, So finally getting it here in 2022, that was, seriously special, and a lot of work from a lot of people. Huge amount of work, to be fair. Personally, I guess took a lot of pride in one thing we really worked on with our local crews that were in the international event was the change in the rules, because obviously FIA rules are different to the rules we have within our ASN. Not drastically, not in terms of little things like safety regulations. I say not that many things. There's about a 13,000-page document we put together, but of our 13 local competitors who ran in the international event, not one got a penalty or a fine. It's apparently the first time in 4 years.
Wow.
And so the FIA started using us as an example, and I had a reasonable amount to do with that. We were very, very lucky to have the likes of John Kennard, Gelsaminos,
yes.
And a lot of people locally too. But we got all the cars through scrutineering, which was no mean feat, because those FIA guys, they've got a pretty fine tooth comb.
They do.
And as I said, no fines, no penalties, no. So that was pretty special. To see the WRC go to Jack's Ridge, I had a very small part to play in seeing that venue come to life, particularly for 2020. And what Andrew and his team did out there, Andrew Hawkswood, was just amazing. The fact that someone would go to that length to help out a rallying community, the investment is massive, and the product was just spectacular despite the weather, because it was atrocious. It was just atrocious.
6 inches of mud underneath your feet and everything like that. But the stage was great, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that is a world-class venue. I think Craig Breen summed it up. He said, I don't know who Jack is, but his house is worth a few bucks now. So, so we did make a point of introducing Jack to him later that evening. But, it's crazy to think that he's no longer with us now. But real buzz. And certainly, to know that may be the time in this generation that we see those cars. I mean, it doesn't mean the work stops, but there's definitely no guarantees with these things, and it really comes down to funding, because it's not a cheap exercise to put one of those events together.
No, not at all. Is there discussions happening at the moment about where that money might come from and stuff like that, and perhaps something down the line?
Always discussions.
Of course there is.
It's always discussions.
Yeah, fantastic. And Jack's Ridge, is that doing anything at present? Is there a rally sprint coming up for it? Because it's a great bit of road, and it'd be a shame not to see it used. Sorry.
I don't think we've seen the last of it. I think at the moment it's because it's an active clean fill site, and so the eagle-eyed viewers would have noticed that the central bowl area where everyone was, or the majority of the spectators were for the WRC stage, is actually quite different in its layout to when the Battle of Jacks Ridge Rally Sprint was on in 2020, and that was largely just because there was a whole pile of dirt that had been dumped in there in the meantime. So what was a big dip and a big bowl was like level. So I think that continues to evolve. But I don't think we've seen the last of that place. And I know that Andrew's sort of reasonably helpful with some of his fellow competitors in terms of the section out the back with being able to test and things like that, which is I mean, can't say enough about the bloke. He's just so generous to our whole sport over here in New Zealand. So
it's amazing, and it was a great event to be over there and to be a part of. Of course, it was a fantastic show of New Zealand rallying, and it was the best of New Zealand rallying in a lot of senses as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone took great pride in the fact that we hadn't seen an event like that for 10 years. I think we'd possibly, towards the end of the tenure there in the 2000s, not so much the organising team, but the fans were, you sort of go, oh, it's okay because I won't go this year because it'll be back next year and it's not a major. And then you take it away for 10 years and everyone's like, oh, we're there, because again, everyone knew it was a 1 year deal. There was no guarantees that we'd see it again, and there are no guarantees that we'll see it again. So I think everyone from the organising team through the competitors, through the spectators, the officials, everyone put their best foot forward, and those events are challenging, and there are lots and lots and lots of moving pieces, and there's a lot of people that probably shaved a lot of years off their life to bring it together, and probably ended up with shares in hair dye companies, but I think in general, New Zealand rallying as a whole should be pretty proud of the event that was delivered in 2022. Again, despite that weather, like the amount of people that were out there on the Saturday, because that weather was just crap.
Yeah.
I lived 10 minutes from the service park, and I couldn't see off the end of my front deck because it was really, really brave. And I thought, that's all right, I'll sit there, I'll watch all live, and I'll go back to the service park at lunchtime and catch up with everyone, because it's just, there's a lot of people that were a lot braver than me.
No doubt. Well, Blair, thanks for your time. I won't keep you any longer. I'm sure there's plenty of other rally things you can be doing in your evening, but thanks again, and I appreciate you coming on and chatting about New Zealand rallying.
Appreciate the opportunity to have a chat, Luke, anytime.
Thanks, Blair.